If two people tell you the same thing, if two people give you the same advice, if two different folks tell you basically the same truth, you should listen. I don't remember from who or where I received that advice, but I always recommend that to my patients, my clients, and also I do it myself. Um, I know that if someone gives you an advice, they may be wrong, they may be biased, they have their own agenda, they have their own ego, and sometimes you don't need to follow it, right? But if two different persons give you the same type of advice, there may be something because, and specifically if they are like fall like very apart, like they are not organizing themselves to give you the same advice, right? So if two different people give you the same advice, there may be something that you should consider, because there is two different psyches, two different minds concluding the same thing. So you should listen. So I always follow that rule, and that rule was the one that I applied when I decided to undertake one of the most profound journeys that I have done in my life. And I don't say technique because although it is a technique, sun gazing is a technique, but I consider it more deep than that. I consider it an experience, a revolution of your spirit, of your soul, of your drive, and you will learn about it here. But let me tell you the story. Every good episode starts with a story, and every meditation has a story behind it. How I realize it, how I got to know, or how I discover sun gazing. Well, let me tell you real quick. So, the first time that I heard about it, I was working as a psychology intern, clinical psychology intern in the corrections of Colorado. And one day, one morning, I was doing a rotation in one of these corrections, and the rotation consists of basically going to every cell and asking the folk, hey, are you okay today? Anything that you want me to do for you today? And if they say, I'm good, I continue moving. If they say, I feel sad, I am depressed, blah, blah, blah. Well, I did like a brief psychological intervention with them. That was the rotation that I was doing that morning. So I was in an unit that all the folks, all the prisoners, all the offenders that were misbehaving, they were locked in there. So I was with the with the bad boys, right? With the bad boys of the bad boys. So I was there. So I went to a specific cell of a guy that I didn't know him before. Well, yeah, I kind of know him before, but he was not my patient. He was not my client. So I didn't know him too much. I knew a little bit about him. I heard some things about him, but I didn't know him like intimately or professionally. So I knocked his door. He wake up. He was sleeping. He came to the door, and we start speaking. So one of the things that psychologists that we use and we do a lot is to maximize protective factors. Let me explain real quick this clinical term for you. Protective factor is everything that a human being does that actually promotes his mental health. So, for example, if one of the things that you do to have a better mental health is to eat better, like to eat very healthy, well, that may be a protective factor for you. If you like to listen to music, specifically to Mozart, that may be a protective factor for you. So when we are working with psychologists, when we are working with protective factor, what we do is basically we ask to the patient, hey, what you do to be happy, what you do to relax and stuff like that, and they tell us, and then we use that information to promote further the utilization or the use of those skills. Because if those skills are already working, why we are not going to benefit from them, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to tell the patient, hey, this is already working for you. Why you don't systemize this better? Why you don't make a better and more effective routine or habit of this technique or this habit? And that way you will promote and facilitate mental health in your life. So I was doing that with this folk, and one of the things that he told me he do a lot is practicing spirituality, very similar to what we discuss here in our podcast, in the Mastermind podcast. So I asked him what type of techniques just to do this protective factor strategy that I just told you. And he started to tell me like eating vegan, I meditate, and a lot of the common stuff that a spiritual person may do, right? But then he told me one technique that I have never heard before. And he told me, and sometimes, I just gaze at the sun and I practice sun gazing. And that has been so revolutionary for me. And I was like, Okay, I don't know that. What is that? I asked him with a genuine and authentic curiosity. Because as I always tell people, um, sometimes the patient is your teacher. Some psychologists are not humble enough to understand this, and they think that they have a superior kind of power role over the patient. I don't perceive that. That is not my style. That is not my philosophical framework. I am more like a humanist, Jungian kind of psychologist. Although I have my own style, though, but I take the principles of humanism and Jungian psychology, in which we perceive our patient as human, as an equal, and as someone that also have wisdom and spiritual knowledge. And I cannot discard that because I am the professional, dude. He's the professional of his life. I'm just an outsider of his life, right? So every patient is a professional of his own life. So I always take that into consideration. So I ask him, all right, what is that? What is that sun gazing stuff? And he told me, well, you just look at the sun and you stare at the sun directly. And that is a very powerful technique. And he explained me a lot of it that I will be explaining you. I will explaining to you during the podcast of today. But the whole reason what I am telling you this is because that was the day that I crossed my path with the technique. Now, I went back and I did a little bit of research of the technique just for curiosity and because I am a scientist of spirituality. So, but I didn't went too far the um with the study because that day I told my supervisor, hey, this guy told me about this technique and other techniques that he's practicing, blah blah blah, and she told me something like, oh man, that guy, he his eyes were damaged by that technique of sun gazing, I believe. She told me something like that. So that is a very dangerous technique. don't listen to that guy, blah blah blah. So she told me that, and so I did a little bit of research and I stopped. I didn't do it. I didn't do the technique. Maybe I was scared. The supervisor opinion was very heavy on my decision, and at the end of the day, he was just a prisoner. Why I would, right, listen to a prisoner and go and stare at the sun because a prisoner is doing that? That doesn't make sense. So I forgot about it. I didn't do it. I continued with my life, and that was the end of it, right? But interesting enough, like, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 months after that, I was interviewing a very, very profound man. He's a man from Spain. So this interview, his name is Sergio, and this interview, the name of it, I don't remember, but if you search on my YouTube channel, Dr. Derek Israel, and you write in Spanish, Matriz de Realidad, Matriz de Realidad, like a reality matrix, but it's on Spanish, you will be able to find this interview. And believe me, this will be one of the most profound interviews that you will ever hear and watch and experience. So if you have the privilege of understanding Spanish as well, you're bilingual, go and search for that in YouTube, Matriz de la Realidad, Derek Israel, and you will be able to hear that interview. So in that interview, I was asking this very profound, wise, Kabbalist, artist, spiritual, developed, and sophisticated man about his journey and about the techniques that he has implemented in his spiritual life in order to reach the stage of consciousness that he's now enjoying and sharing with the world. And he told me a couple of techniques and a couple of philosophies, but one that I was like, oh my gosh, seriously, this again? When he mentioned, you guess it, right? Sun gazing again. So he told me something like, well, when I start doing the sun gazing, I receive so much information, so many spiritual insights that I almost broke. I almost broke in spirit. It was too much light for me in that stage of my life. And he told me something like, now, 10 years after that, I am starting to doing it again, but it was a very intense practice. So that day, something clicked on my mind. And the idea that I presented in the beginning about if two people tell you the same thing, they may be right, that hit me like a rock. And I understood that I needed to research more in depth this technique and to make a final and informed decision. Because at the end of the day, the supervisor that told me that, that was a bad idea, that is dangerous, that supervisor, she didn't practice any type of spiritual techniques that I know of. Like, she was a very smart woman, like a social beast. She was one of the most brilliant socially beasts that I have ever came to know. But at the end of the day, she was not spiritual at all. So why I will take an advice about spirituality from a person that doesn't practice pranayama, doesn't practice deep yoga, doesn't practice meditation, doesn't practice um, deep spirituality? Why I will hear someone like that, right? So I gave a second chance. I gave a second chance to the technique. So what I did is I started doing my research. Notice what I did. I didn't go and stare at the sun directly right away. I went and I did my research. I spent like a couple of days reuniting the data, reading testimonies, reading historically what is sun gazing contextually, spiritually, socially, religiously, psychologically? What are the risks to the eyes, to the mental health aspect, to the spirit? What are the benefits? What can it do for me? It is worth it. So I did all of that. I saw documentaries, I read articles, I bought some books, but I haven't read them yet. So that is further research that I need to do. But I have time for that. I will be doing that in the future. I read some articles, I saw some YouTube videos, and I spent a couple of days doing very deep research on it. So at the end of my research, I decided definitely, as I teach you guys to decide, we don't decide partially, we decide definitely when we decide. I decide definitely to conduct the sun gazing spiritual operation in my life, and I did. This episode is the recollection and expression of what I have been learning in the sun gazing technique. And at the end of the day, after this podcast, if you consider this technique, if you listen to this podcast entirely, you will be facing a new call in your life. Something will be calling to your door after this podcast. You will mm, you will make a decision after this podcast. This may be the podcast that changed your whole life. This may be the technique that is a before and after in your biographical spiritual life. Now, it may be just one episode that you listen and you never do something with it. It may be. You may do the same mistake that I did the first time. Like I listened about the technique and I didn't proceed with the operation. Now I regret that. I should be doing this like forever. But everyone have his own journey. You will take your own decision and you will learn today what is one of the most powerful techniques in the history of the humankind, one that can transfer information, wisdom, and light per 3 million, 1 trillion, 1 billion. Very, very, very effective, very rapidly. And we can call this sun gazing. Are you ready, my friend, to look, to stare, to watch, to join, to merge with your sun? Welcome to the episode 513 of the Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 2. Every Monday through Friday, I am sharing a new challenge, a new idea that will spiritualize your life, that will facilitate and propel your personal development. So if you like this episode, subscribe to any station that you are listening to, or maybe my YouTube channel. Just subscribe for more. Also, let me tell you that we are reuniting in my Telegram exclusive group. It is all free. So if you want to join a community of like-minded people that are doing techniques that, like today, the one that we're going to learn today for their personal development, if you want to join us, just hit the link in the description below and join our free, private, exclusive Telegram group. So let me advise you a recommendation For those that will be um, crazy enough to try this idea, remember that you must do your research before implementing any idea that I share with you. That is your responsibility. If you are giving me the power of just doing what I tell you without you doing your research and without you making your own decisions as a thinker that you are, let me tell you that you are wasting your time with me here. This is not about you following my instructions. I am not your father. I'm just a guide. I'm just a spoiler. I'm just a young man that is sharing spiritual techniques that he's learning in his own path. So this may be for you, this may be not for you. You will decide. What I suggest and really recommend you, you need to do your own research. You need to assess if you have eye problems, if you have mental health problems, if you have any physical condition that may be an impediment to this technique, you need to assess that. All right. And you need to take a final decision with good information, because for me, this has not been dangerous. I haven't noticed any negative effect from the technique, but not everyone can say the same. Not everyone has the same biology, the same genes, and the same context. So do your own research, and you are responsible of every result that you may derive from this technique. All right. So now let's go right into it. Before we go right into the technique, let me tell you a little bit about how you can benefit extremely from this podcast, because this episode in particular, this is a technique. But if you want to understand better the technique, you need to understand the philosophy behind the technique. And when we are sun gazing, we are basically working with light. That is what we are doing. Remember, sun is light. It's a source of light. It's a source of heat. So if you don't know in a spiritual root what is light, you will find difficulty in benefiting wholly, completely, totally from this technique. So if you want to know what is spiritual light philosophically, you should go to my YouTube channel and search for my episode that is called Luminosity. What is spiritual light? Luminosity. What is spiritual light? Also, I have like a second part of that video or that podcast that is called You Are a Light Prism. You are a light prism. So those two episodes are very fundamental to benefit entirely from this episode. Now, they are not mandatory. You will definitely understand the whole podcast, this one, before hearing those. But this is just for the ones that are really very in depth in their work and want more research and wants more uh, context. Okay. Also, I will be shooting an episode in the future, like maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or maybe next week. I don't know, but very soon, about the sun archetype. Sun archetype. So that is another episode that will be like tied with this one. So just if you are seeing this in the future, like maybe in 2023 or 2030 or whatever, just search in my YouTube channel, Derek Israel Sun Archetype, and definitely that will be appearing for you. So now let's go with the real meat of this podcast. So, what is sun gazing? Well, these have a couple of different names. Sun gazing is the most popular one, but also the technique can be called sun yoga. And also another technique that I have, another name that I have heard about it is eating the sun. Eating the sun. So if you have studied alchemy and symbolism, you will understand how powerful this name is, eating the sun. Because in alchemy, the sun always represents the totality of the universal man or woman, what we mean by God, or the ultimate principle, or the divine spark of the anima mundi or the unus mundus, only one world. Unus mundus is the only one world. I am writing a book about it. It's going to be launching very, very soon. So, um, so if you have research in your life about spirituality, about mysticism, about symbolism, you will understand that eating the sun, this metaphor, is very powerful, as the technique is very powerful. So, sun gazing or sun yoga or eating the sun is basically a technique that is very old, and I will give you a little bit of the historical context. But the whole technique is that 45 minutes after the sun, how do you call the sunrise, you know, as soon as the sun come up in the sky, the sunrise, you have a window of 45 minutes approximately in which the sun will not transmit toxic toxic x-rays, or sorry, or ultraviolet rays. Okay, so ultraviolet rays can be dangerous, and they can have a negative effect if you stare or look directly to the sun when the sun is emitting these ultraviolet rays. But in the first 45 minutes in the sunrise, the sun is almost not emitting this type of rays. Now, what I have read is that sometimes the sun can emit ultraviolet rays in these first 45 minutes, but it's not the common type of situation. Most of the days, most of the time, you will be looking at the source of light without any type of ray that will damage your eyes. All right. Also, in the 45 minutes before the sunset in the afternoon, you also have this window of almost no ultraviolet rays, and you can also directly stare at the sun. So basically, this is the technique. You will stare at the sun 45 minutes in the morning as soon as the sun come up, maybe at 6 a.m., 5:45. It will depend on stations. You know, right now I'm in Arizona, and right now the sun is getting up or rising at maybe like 6 a.m., 6:50 a.m. is the time that the sun is rising right now in Arizona. So you will learn what is the time for you, right? So you may do this in the morning or in the afternoon, or you may do it both. It doesn't have like a limitation. Also, this technique, it is recommended that you do it barefoot without any type of shoes, and it is recommended also that you do it touching earth, natural earth. So, for example, if you are in your house and you are looking through the window, well, you may consider to leave your house and go to the backyard and to be in contact directly with with nature while you are doing this technique, because this synergize the technique. Being barefoot, being connected to the earth will synergize the effect. Also, it is done by looking the sun directly. So if you have like a window in between, like a crystal transparent window, you are not sun gazing effectively. You are putting a barrier between you and light, between you and wisdom, between you and spiritual insight, between you and God. This technique, it is supposed to be done directly. You are going to stare the sun directly. Now, some people say that they find easier to to just look or stare at the periphery of the sun. So if the sun is like a ball, right, like a circle, but if it is very strong for you to look at directly, maybe you can look to the light that is surrounding the sun, but it's not directly, and that also will have an effect. What I have noticed in my own practice is that it is not the same effect. When I look at the sun directly, I get a stronger effect in comparison to when I look to the periphery. So I did both. For me, it doesn't work too well looking the periphery. For me, it works very good looking directly to the sun. But you will do your own experimentation if you decide, and you will, uh, you know, you will adjust your own technique to your own taste. So it is recommended also that you start step by step, maybe with 30 seconds the first day, the day after that, maybe 1 minute. Some people recommend that you need to be increasing 10 seconds every day. So in the first day you did 30 seconds, the next day you will do 40, and the next you will do 50. And I never did that. That is not my style. I just went all in, and I stared the sun like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes the first day. But how I do it in terms of time, this is how I do it. I do it without any time limit. Obviously, I don't do it if 45 minutes happen, and I have never been staring the sun 45 minutes. I think that the maximum that I have been doing it in a single session, maybe 20 minutes. That is the maximum for me. For now, because I have been doing this like for the last 2 months. So I don't know what will happen in the future, because I am progressing. This is a muscle. Your eyes are a muscle, and they will adjust to the light. So what I do is I just feel, I am sensitive enough to feel what is the time that my body really wants to do this technique. Sometimes I'm just staring the sun maybe 1 minute, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10, sometimes 20. It depends on the day. It depends on the meditation that I am doing, and and depends also in context. Okay. So this is very, very, very important. So one thing that you may encounter by doing this technique is that your eyes will resist at first. You will be, oh man, this hurts, or this burn. Right, because spiritual wisdom burn, right? It's a good metaphor. So yeah, specifically or especially if you have clear eyes like I do, I have like a green, yellowish kind of eyes. You can see them here, maybe. So we have obviously less protection in our eyes in terms of light. So for me, always has been very difficult to be able to deal with the sun. For example, if I was driving and the sun was in front of my car, I always have trouble looking forward. I am a very like sensitive man to light. Also, my father, he has the same eyes, a little bit more darker than I, and he's like a very, very glasses type of man. My father always have dark glasses is the name? Yeah, eyeglasses. Yeah. Let me check. Let me double check. I don't want to be, yeah, glasses. So he's always with black glasses because I think that he has the same problem of the sensitivity with the sun. So you have maybe blue eyes, green eyes, yellow eyes, hazel eyes. Well, the technique will be more difficult for you, but you will adjust. So if you have like brown eyes, dark eyes, maybe will be more manageable for you. But I have a very clear eyes, and now I am ready to do it. Like, and also I saw a documentary of a guy that you can search in YouTube, sun gazing documentary, and it's a very short one, like 20 minutes. It's a very good one. It's like a homemade type of documentary of a explorer, of a spiritual seeker that he's documenting his journey. And if I don't remember bad or wrongly, he had blue eyes. So also those are clear eyes, and he did it very well. And the thing with this documentary, and why is what it sorry why I think it is relevant, is because he went to the doctor, and he was tested um, for his eyes condition after doing this for years. And the doctors concluded that he has no permanent damage in his eyes at all. So he demonstrated, at least with his case, this is not a controlled study, this is not a double blind study, but this is at least a specific case in which he demonstrated that the technique may be safe, at least is safe for him. For him. Okay. So watch that documentary if you want more information. So yeah, I think that I told you the basic kind of method of doing this technique. So you may ask, Derek, but what I will do? Like, I am staring at the sun, and what next? Well, you can combine this technique with others, and I will tell you more about it in very soon in this episode. But just staring at the sun is the whole technique. There's nothing more to do. Just stare at the sun. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit about the history of sun gazing. So this is a very old technique, folks. This is not something new. This is not something that we invented now because we are crazy enough to do it. No, this comes from Egypt, old Egypt. This comes from shamanic communities, from primitive communities. So this is a very old technique. So a lot of tribes and a lot of civilizations, they used to believe that the sun was the direct representation of God. So think about it this way. If you don't have science, if you don't have internet, if you don't have books, and you are in a historical context in which mysticism is the law, spirituality is the law, and you are seeing this world, this magical world, and you see this sphere that is shining every day and nurturing your food and nurturing your body and giving you heat and protecting you from the lethal cold that has been a historical killer of human beings. And this thing is always there. It comes every day without exception and brings the light, brings the day. What you will think about this thing, what you will think about it if you are in this archaic 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 civilization. Well, you will technique that this thing is divine. Now, you now think that this thing is a star. Now you think in terms of science and materialism and physicalism. But those folks, they didn't think with these paradigms. And notice, these are paradigms. These are systems of beliefs. These are not the truth. The truth may be other thing. The truth may be relative, right? So these folks of the past, they used to think that that circle shining there, it is not a star, it is the source of being, the source of light, and not light as conventional light, light as a spiritual light, light that have spiritual wisdom in it, revelation in it. For more, listen to the episode Luminosity. What is spiritual light? So it was very common for these tribal communities and, you know, great civilizations, very organized civilization like Egypt, to stare at the sun normally every day, every morning. For example, I was reading about a tribe that they used to think that their whole divine purpose on earth was to make sure that the sun rise up and goes down every day. So this tribe used to think that they were the divine beings that were doing this. Now you may say, oh my God, Derek, but that is so archaic. That is so primitive. Okay, that is cool, good for them, but we know that they are not doing that. We know that the sun, that the earth is rotating, and every time that the earth rotate, you know, it will, so one part of the earth will have the sun, the other will not have the sun, and that is actually, the gravitation and the pull of the sun and the pull of the earth and the rotation of the earth and all the physical laws or the forces or the thermodynamics. Those are the things that are making the sun move from the east to the west, from the sunrise to the sunset. It is not the tribe. They were hallucinating. They were inventing that, Derek. Why you make this point? I'm making this point because you also are inventing the other story that you are saying right now. All of those physical laws, all of those stories about the earth, that also are stories. Now, they may be true or not, but also they are stories. They are paradigms. We are doing the same as all civilizations, but we are with a new story. But we are developing a new story that we call science, we call physics, we call Big Bang. There is an area of study that is called cosmology. I hope that I am pronouncing that good. Cosmology. Let me search real quick because I know it in Spanish, but I don't know. Mm, let me cosmo. Damn, I am not finding the real term in English. Let me look at so now I'm having a little bit of a struggle, and now my light is also breaking up here in my studio. So give me just 1 second, guys. When you're live, you must be willing to face the unexpected. And if you cannot adapt into the unexpected, you cannot do anything with substance in your life. So I really want to look for this word once I really fix this light, because I am putting the light in a specific position that give me the best angle as possible. And oh my gosh, why this light is so weak today, baby? Come on, cooperate with me. We are changing the world, light. Come on. Oh man. Okay, now I have the light good. What is that word that I'm looking, man? How is possible? So I'm looking for a word that is basically this, how you can design a cosmos. So I was reading about it a couple of days ago. Um, anyways, I will forget about it. Sorry guys. So there is a study. I forget the word right now, but there is a type of study, a type of field of study about how the cosmos came to be. And if you read about how, for example, the Greeks used to tell or used to design their story, and you read about how Egypt did, or how in India how they did it, and how they did it on China, you will understand that the Big Bang is just another story. It's almost the same. It's crazy. If you read the Big Bang, so let me tell you something. Let me ask you something. Have you ever read the Big Bang theory? Have you ever read that? Because most people will say, oh, Derek, those stories that you tell, they are so fantastical. They are so childlike. Like, the universe, it is not that. That is very, very stupid what you said, right? The Big Bang is the real thing. That is what science said. Have you ever read the Big Bang? If you read the Big Bang, you will notice that is the most crazy story ever. Just give me 1 second, folks. Oh my gosh. Forget about it. That is the most stupid story ever, and people believe it exactly as we used to believe that we were responsible for the whole sun to travel, the skies. It is not a difference between one story and the other. It's just different stories. But anyways, let's continue moving forward. So this has been historically, folks. This technique has been practiced in a lot of civilizations. The sun archetype is one of the most powerful archetypes that you can encounter. Um, and also a lot of spiritual yogis that are living today, they practice this in different parts of the world. But what I have noticed is that it is not very popular. And I think it is not very popular because obviously in the mainstream information, we tend to believe that looking at the sun, sorry, looking at the sun is dangerous. Like, everyone tell us, hey, do not look at the sun, boy. You're gonna get blind, right? So that's why I think it is a technique that is not very popular, because a lot of people is afraid of it. All right. So what are the benefits? Let me tell you a little bit about what are the benefits, to see if I convinced you to at least do your research. I am not trying to convince you to the to do the to do the technique. I am just trying to convince you to do the research. So also, I want to remind you that this podcast is completely free. So if you want to help us to be self-sustainable, and if you want to donate at least $5 per month, the link for Patreon, that is the platform that we use to receive donations of loving people that are appreciating what we are doing in this podcast. The link is in the description. So please go and donate to help us to become and to continue self-sustainable in this podcast. So let me tell you a little bit about the benefits. So the first, and also these benefits are not necessarily the ones that you will find on the internet when you are doing your research. These benefits are the benefits that I experience in my life, in my personal life. Okay. So this is my direct experience. A lot of benefits that you will read in the internet, I have not experienced those, but it will vary. Person to person, it will vary. So this I have directly experienced. First benefit of sun gazing, I gain profound insight during this technique. I don't know why, but when I am looking at the sun, I receive the most powerful information that I can receive. It's like crazy, 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 crazy. I can understand things that I cannot do it in other way. It's like I cannot even explain how this can be. It's like the sun have this synthetic component that we discussed in the luminosity episode. This organizational principle in your psyche. Like when the light hits your psyche, it's like the information that was on potential, it becomes real like that. And you gain insight about yourself, about your life, about your life purpose, about your destiny. You gain a lot of insight. So if you are very into gaining insight, spiritual wisdom, this may be one of those for you, man. Another benefit that I find is inspiration. When I am sun gazing, I'm looking at the sun, 9 of 10 times, I just stop looking at the sun because I need to go and create art. I feel so inspired while I am looking at the sun. Obviously, it's one of the most beautiful experience that you will have. Is an aesthetic art. It is a beauty to do. Beauty with capital B. So I feel very inspired. It's like the spirit is lifted during this technique. And sometimes I run back to my apartment. I run literally to record a video or to write a book or to make a paint because I am so inspired. And this do not happen every time, but happen constantly. And the inspiration happens constantly. The other benefit that I have been noticing in my practice is purpose correction. Purpose correction. So if I am like drifting from my life purpose, and by the way, I have a course in derekisrael.com that is called Manifesting Your Life Purpose. If you want to connect and manifest yours, if I am drifting, if I am deviating, if I am like walking a little bit away from my life purpose, every time that I go and look at the sun, it's like I am I come back to my center. I come back to my purpose. I come back to that I must do in life, in my biography, in my story, in my journey. So if you are finding yourself in your life that you are not disciplined enough, or you are not kind of vertical enough to pursue definitely your life purpose, boy, this may be a technique that you should consider. Because what I find is I find myself on purpose every time that I'm looking at the sun. Another benefit that I find is an enhancement of creativity. So the inspiration that I told you, that is just like the drive to create. It is like the spark of, oh my gosh, I am so inspired. I need to do this. I need to do that. But another benefit is that I am more creative. Like, I feel more creative. And that for me, it is not a difficulty. I am very creative naturally. But I kind of feel a little bit of an increasement on my creativity when I am sun gazing. Not a big deal, not like a crazy quantum kind of jump, but a little bit more creative. I am a little bit more creative now. So you may be a person that you are looking for more creativity in your life. You may feel that you are not creative enough. Then you may try this, because this may be a route for your creativity. Another benefit is that stimulate my shadow work. So if you know what is shadow work, that is basically working with your dark part, your dark side, your dark Vader within. So when you are sun gazing, you will receive a lot of information instantly. And some of this information may be about your own shadow, your own immature parts, the things in your life that you need to correct, that you need to solve. So you will be metabolizing and digesting shadow aspects of your psyche, shadowy aspects of your psyche. Another benefit is that I can enter in a deep meditation. So you are finding struggles to meditate. Maybe you cannot concentrate too well. Maybe this is an alternative for you, because what I found is that when I am sun gazing, I can concentrate immediately. Like, the light is so omnipresent in my eyes that I cannot think about anything else. I only can see the light. So I am not thinking about my day, mundane stuff. The light like correct all of that, and I am just there present with that luminosity, with that light. Another benefit that I find is increased energy. Increased energy. I remember I was in a spiritual trip a couple of weeks ago in Sedona. I was hiking in a very um how can I say that? In a very heavy type of bell. It's a rock bell. It's a like a mountain. And I was hiking this, and then I spent the whole day hiking this. I reached the top, almost the top, and then I came down and I tried to ask for a Uber, that because I needed to get back to my car, and my car was like 2 hours away walking. So I tried to reach an Uber, and suddenly no Uber was available. So I had to make a choice. I could stay there and cry. I could wait for an Uber to be available, or I could just walk 2 more hours and get to my car. So, mind you, I was being there since maybe 7 a.m. And this time that I was looking for the Uber was 3 p.m. So I spent the whole day in the mountain. I was hiking. I was very tired. My skin was burned by the sun. I was almost without water, and I was in a very, kind of sad condition, like a not a ideal condition. But what I decided to do, I decided to tough it up, and I decided to walk back to my car, 2 hours after the whole day, right? And one of the things that I did in one moment, it was like maybe like, I don't know, 5:45. The sun was going down, and I was so tired, and it was maybe 45 minutes to go still. So I remember that I look at the sun and I spent like 5 minutes doing the sun gazing and breathing. And then I was so revitalized, so re energized that I end my walk like nothing. It's like I absorb the energy of the sun. Now, a lot of people, not a lot, but some folks, they say that solar energy, and remember, this is energy, folks, this is the food for plants. Some folks say that solar energy, it is a substitute for food, organic food. And some people say and affirm that they can survive only with consuming the sun, without drinking anything else, or without eating organic food, or just food like a pizza, or cereal or whatever. Now, I don't know if that is true or not. I haven't experienced that. I haven't experimented that. I still eat food. you know. But I'm just telling you that if people that are crazy enough to try that tell us, hey, we can survive with this only, well, that tells us that definitely solar energy, or sun energy, or sonic energy. No, sonic energy is not. It's not correct. We might say thermal or heat energy. It is a fountain. It's a fountain of energy, right? So I don't know if you can survive only with that, and I don't know if I'm gonna try that ever in my life. But what I know by experience is that obviously that is a source of energy. Is a source of energy. That is definitely true. Also, another benefit that I have found is more appreciation of nature. I feel more connected to nature when I am sun gazing and after I finish my session. So I have been able to connect better with the sun, with the clouds, with the sky, with the earth, with the plants, with animals, with the sounds of animals. I feel more connected overall with nature after this technique. Also, I have been feeling a positive change on healthy mindset. So, what I mean by a healthy mindset is a mindset of being healthy, to eat healthy, to stay healthy in fitness. So, a lot of people say that when they are sun gazing, they lose their appetite. That has not happened to me. But what happening to me is that I suddenly lost the desire of eating cheaty food, like suddenly. And that is one of the toughest challenge for me, folks. Spiritually, everyone has weaknesses in this path. One of my weaknesses is that I like to eat cheaty food. I like pizza, I like hamburgers, hot dogs, I like, I don't know, spaghetti, fried chicken, ice cream, milkshakes. you know, I like sugary, salty, non-healthy, you are gonna kill yourself type of food. And that has been something that I need to work, and I have been working that for years, because I know that that is a barrier in my spiritual progress. And I have been cleaning my diet slowly, slowly, nothing crazy. I have been implementing fasting. I have a couple of episodes about fasting, intermediate fasting, long-term fasting. I have been doing some stuff with my food. For example, I almost do not drink anything else beside water. Sometimes I drink milk or juice, but not too much. Um, and I have been cleaning my diet. I eliminated coffee, I eliminated fast foods, I eliminated Coca Cola. That was a huge one for me. But I haven't been able to have like one of the, those type of diets that spiritual gurus have. Like I see these spiritual gurus and they are all veggie, they are all vegetarians, and they transcended that aspect of the material realm. And for me, that has been a challenge. I had not been able to do it, but I will be able, folks. Just give me more time. But what I have been noticing with sun gazing is that I want to eat more fresh food. I have like a native desire now. I don't know why, but maybe it's because I am connecting with the sun. Maybe I am connecting with nature, and I want to be more healthy because I am like bit more vital. I feel more vital. And the desire that I feel now is to eat healthy food. Like I feel a hunger, like a deep hunger, instead of a for a hamburger, for a banana, for example, or for an apple. So before sun gazing, I ate the apple and I just ate the apple like normally, right? But now I feel like a hunger for the apple. Like, oh my gosh, I want an apple. Oh my gosh, I want a banana. But I don't say, oh my God, I don't feel the craving too much for example, ice cream. I feel a craving for water. I feel a craving for an orange. I feel a craving for something that is organic and healthy. And that is awesome, man, because that has helped me to fix my diet so much better in the last few months, and it's showing in my body. It is showing. Obviously, I'm combining this with intermittent fasting. Every day I spend 16 hours without eating, and I only eat in a window of 8 hours. That is a technique that I have been doing since like for 3 or 4 months now. And the combination of all those variables had made my body feel slim, better, faster, stronger. I feel like a 17 years old, and I'm 27. So also another thing that I have been noticing in terms of health is a native, again, like a native visceral inherent desire of working out. And again, that for me was a challenge because I always has been athletic. I played basketball, I practiced boxing, I played baseball back in the day when I was younger, when I was an adolescent and a kid, stuff like that. I practiced running long distances. I was a member of the ROTC. I was a cadet. So I always maintain a sense of fitness. Now, I am not the most fittest person in the world. Obviously, I am not Batista. I am not The Rock. I'm not Dwayne Johnson, right? But I always try to maintain a good body condition. But also, that has been a challenge for me. I have never been able to be my my ultimate potential in my body. Like I know that this body that you are seeing here, oh my gosh, ah! This body, yeah, I have a little bit of force in my arms, and I am working my chest and my legs, and I know that I'm quick, I'm strong, I know that, but it's not my potential. I know that I can have a better body, and we all can, right? I think this is something normal. I am not special for these folks. We all know that we can have a better body, and we all have this platonic idea of how our body can be. but I have never been able to actually materialize that body. And now, after sun gazing, what I have been noticing is that I feel a desire, a hunger for working out. It is not like a discipline anymore. It is not something that I need to do because, well, this is my goal. I have this new year goal, new year resolution. No, 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 no. It's like I feel the desire of working out. It's like my body is falling in love with healthy stuff. And that is so cool. I don't attribute this directly to the sun gazing, but I attribute like some percent to the sun gazing, maybe like a 30 or 40% to the sun gazing. Also, you need to combine this with other techniques that will help you to actualize these things, but definitely sun gazing help. Also, another benefit is discovery and understanding. So I have been discovering a lot of parts of myself that I didn't know before sun gazing, and I have been working with those. So be ready to find out about some aspects of your personality that you don't know. And sun gazing will help you to uncover and discover that. I am trying to understand my letter. Okay, so another benefit is spiritual connection and awareness. So, what I mean by this, and also I can relate to this benefit by looking to the sun with the eyes closed. So when you miss the window of the 45 minutes in the morning or in the afternoon before sunset, you can still do the technique, but don't do it with your eyes open. Just close your eyes and look to the sun with your eyes closed directly, and you will feel that in your visual field you will see the light in the darkness of your mind. And that is a very spiritual connection, because you are not like, sometimes when you are looking directly, you are struggling, you are trying to maintain your stare fixed on the object, fixed on the concentration of the sun, right? But when you are with the eyes closed, you are more like in the moment. So I do it also in that with that style. And what I have noticed is that my awareness spiritually have increased these last 2 months. Like, I am more aware. I am more attuned with life. I am more conscious of everything. It's like, this is like, how can I explain this? Like an expansion of your consciousness. That's what I have been experiencing. And also, another benefit is that, and this is the last benefit that I will tell you, sun gazing is a perfect synergizer. You will have synergy with other spiritual techniques that you may be doing already. So sometimes I just stare at the sun, but sometimes I combine sun gazing with other techniques and I do it at the same time. And that is where this work comes very, very, very powerful. So when you become a more experienced spiritual seeker, you will understand that the power of spiritual techniques, it is found in the combination and in the mix of the techniques, rather in you doing it alone, like you doing every technique by itself. Yeah, that works, but if you can combine them and do like a hybrid spiritualism, damn, you will reach the top of the spiritual hierarchy. So I combine sun gazing with, for example, technique like meditation. Obviously, this is like the most fundamental. Yoga. I love doing yoga while I'm looking at the sun, like hatha yoga, doing the asanas, doing the poses, maybe kundalini yoga. Martial arts. I practice boxing, but I am expanding my knowledge of martial arts very definitely right now in my life. So I will be expanding to more karate and jiu-jitsu and different type of kung fu and judo. And I don't know a lot about it, to be honest, but I am gonna research more in the future. So right now I'm very focused on boxing. So I like literally do shadow boxing while I'm looking at the sun, and that is like a perfect workout in the morning. Um, Another technique that I use while sun gazing is, oh man, this is so crazy. You need to do this one. Subliminal audios. Now, I will be doing very soon an episode about how the subliminal technologies works, because this is another technique that have changed my life so much in the last couple of months. So what I do is I go to YouTube and I look subliminal audios for success, subliminal audios for productivity, subliminal audios for creativity, whatever I want that day. And I just plug the AirPods and I listen to the audio, listen to the music. Sometimes you don't even listen to the affirmations. They are very, very in a very low volume to be, received by your subconscious mind. But you just listen to the audio and while you stare at the sun. So that is a very synergistic kind of combination, spiritual combination. Another technique that I combine is affirmations, like doing affirmations. I have a Spanish episode about affirmations. You can research it, that you can search that on YouTube. It is called Afirma como los grandes. Derek Israel afirma como los grandes. So I do my affirmations, I do workouts, I do push-ups, I do jumping jacks. So you can do workouts also. I do pranayamas, that is breathing techniques. I do Wim Hof method with it. I have an episode on Spanish about what is the Wim Hof method. Uh, I breathe deeply. I breathe to my testicles. That is another technique that I show in my sexual mastery course. You can find that in derekisrael.com. Let me put you here real quick. I don't find the banner here. So that is a technique that I do. If you are a woman, you can do oval. Oval is, how do you say that? Ovaries. Ovaries, yeah, ovaries. Breathing is kind of the same of testicular breathing. So look for more information if you want. But in my sexual mastery course, you can find that. Also, I do why I combine also is art, like reciting a poem or writing literature while I'm sun gazing, or singing or doing music in my head, boom, 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 like composing a song in my head. So those things, art, perfect. It's perfect with sun gazing. So those are the most cool techniques that I combine. But obviously, you will find your own style. This is just inspiration, folks. This is just inspiration. You do you. So you have a direct challenge for the Mastermind podcast after doing after this episode, and the direct challenge is not to do the technique. It is to do the research, just the research. Your ego may be saying, "Oh no, that one I will not do it." Okay, that is your ego. Just do the research, and then you make a decision. That is your direct challenge. If you don't want to do it, I perfectly understand. I perfectly understand, but you will be missing out. one of the most fascinating techniques that I have ever discovered after thousands of hours of research and practice in thousands of techniques to spiritualize matter and to become enlightened. Just saying, you will take your own decision. So I will not leave this podcast, folks. I will not leave it until I solve the problem about the cosmos thing. So if you have patience with me, if you want to know what I was just talking about, I think that I forgot the point, but I cannot rest if I don't find this. So how the hell this is called? Now I find it. In Spanish is cosmonología, exactly as I was telling. Now I don't know why I didn't find it before. Basically, the cosmonología in Spanish is, you know, the narrative, the mythological narrative of the origin of the universe and the origin of humanity. Let me search how you can say this in English. Cosmology. Yeah, I said it right. Cosmology. I said it right, folks. Why now I find it and I didn't find it? I did. Now I am confused. Maybe I didn't say that. But anyways, it's cosmology. Cosmogony. No, no, no. Sorry. No, 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 no. I am saying it wrong. In Spanish is cosmogonia. 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 Now I'm saying it good. Now I'm learning while I'm teaching. This is the best part. I don't know everything. I always tell you, I'm a student. Cosmogonia is the exact word in Spanish that I was looking, and in English, cosmogony. Cosmogony. I hope that I am pronouncing this good. Cosmogony. Anyways, let me put in the screen how you can find it. So look my screen if you are watching this in my YouTube channel. So study this. Cosmology, cosmogony, cosmology, cosmonología. Anyways, so this is the science or the field of study that study how the cosmos came to be. And if you study the modern cosmogonies, aka slash Big Bang, it is stupid as hell in the same proportion as to think that spaghetti created the universe. If you think that spaghetti created the universe, you are in the same level of stupidity that a person that believes in the Big Bang. That's totally right. It is the same type of fictional story. Just read about it and you will say, oh my gosh, I have been believing science all of this time. And this is the explanation about the origin of the universe that they got, the Big Bang. Is exactly the same thing that you will read in the Bible, the exact nonsense. Now, why I say that? Well, it's because I don't criticize it. I am not criticizing science. I'm just criticizing the fact that we think that one is real and the other ones, like, for example, the ones that we hear on a tribe or the ones that we hear in the Quran or the one that we hear in a cult, those are fake, right? Those are fake. But the one that science have is correct. No, folks. It's a cosmogony, it's a story, and it's a stupid story as well. So just go and research the Big Bang right now in Wikipedia, read about it, and tell me if you think that is more, if that makes more sense than any other of the cosmogonies that came before. So keep that in mind. Now I can go in peace. Wow, that's a very intense podcast. So a couple of things happened. The light gave problem. The cosmogony stuff gave problems. Anyways, that is just part of the story, right? So leave a comment by giving your thoughts about it. Just leave a comment if you are going to research or not. Just say that. I want to know how many people, say yes to the challenge, how many people say, forget it. I am not definitely doing that. So just share your thoughts, share your comments. I want to read you. I want to connect with you. Also, remember to share this with someone, to share this with a friend. This may be a lifesaver for someone that implement this type of technique, and maybe they can revolutionize their life and the world while doing this technique. And also, finally, I want to mention that I am about to launch my first ever book. It is called Terapia con Derek, or Therapy with Derek in English. First, I will be launching the Spanish version. After that, I will be launching the English version. And I'm so excited of this first book because it will help so many people. It's like having a personalized therapy with your doctor, Derek Israel. So if you are enjoying this podcast, please make sure that you visit derekisrael.com. There you will be able to find all the books that I will be launching, all the products, all the courses, all the programs, all the ways that you can work with me, the coaching, the consulting, bro, the business mentorship, and also you will find all the relevant information of my brand and my business that always, always, always is designed to help you to become better, more expansive, more stronger, more enlightened, more lovable that you are. So, my friend, sun gazing folks, this is revolutionary, and I hope that you do a safe practice based on your own research and your own risk.